Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You are watching the Paris Fintech Forum Communities video interview series. I'm Elliott Gotkine, and today I'm joined by the co-founder and CEO of Lydia Solutions, Cyril Chiche. Great to have you with us.
Hi, Elliott. I'm super happy to be with you today.
Lovely. Okay, so look, before we get cracking, let's learn a little bit more about Lydia Solutions. So, Cyril, Lydia Solutions, Lydia the company, began as just a peer-to-peer payments app, but with Sumeria, which launched in 2024, you also added a digital banking app to your stable. What was the kind of reason for that shift?
Well, as soon as we started to get traction on the Lydia, on the peer-to-peer service back in 2016, like the real traction happened, we started to think about what is it we can bring on top of it to our users. What additional services would make sense? What is it that is important to them that we can improve and that hasn't been touched for too long? And of course, we started thinking about it. And in 2018, we launched the first Lydia card. And that was the beginning of it. Of course, we didn't know much about it, so we had to make a few iterations. And some were card holders of the first card can remember they needed these iterations. But then after a while, we've had pretty decent setup, and we started to see, because we designed that checking account, current account, call whatever you want, but this daily account in a very special way with a specific feature we're going to talk about later. We started to see traction on that. And at some point, it was important because our DNA is really experience that for each use case, you have the perfect experience. And it was difficult to have in the same app a perfect experience for a daily account that you would require, for example, on the homepage to have a certain number of information. And on the peer-to-peer payment system, you would really need to be in action immediately. So you don't care about much information. And to have these two coexist in the same body, we tried for a few years. And then in the app, to be obvious that we had to separate them to make sure that each user base or user type has a perfect experience and could enjoy it.
It's interesting you made that choice because, in some countries and in some companies, the trend has been more towards kind of building super apps in fintech. And yet you decided to kind of, separate the two. So you'd give kind of on the basis that you wanted to give people a better experience for kind of each different area of functionality.
Yes, indeed, but we tried the super app avenue first. Of course, we were very impressed with what happened in many places, including, of course, China, where, of course, WeChat Pay, for example, is very impressive. We tried, and it was not sustainable. It was not the level of experience that we wanted to be able to deliver for clients. And the setup is just totally different. So no matter how many people have talked about Super App, and we experienced it, we had at some point up to 28 services connected to the Lydia app. We decided to strip them down and to go back to a more essentialist approach of things to make sure that we focus on something and we deliver the best possible option for that thing.
And so now that you are kind of, head to head with other neobanks and also traditional banks, of course, I mean, what is it about Lydia Solutions as a company, including both of those apps, of course? What is it about Lydia Solutions that consumers would take into account and think, oh, I want to go with Lydia rather than, I don't know, Revolut or someone else?
Well, if you look at the Lydia, which is the historical app, the peer-to-peer service, it's still by far the dominant player in France for peer-to-peer. It's the best user experience. It has the largest number of transactions. It's like the perfect product when you want to do peer-to-peer or money pots, which is basically group peer-to-peer. I remember back in 2017, we had the visit of the chief product officer of PayPal at the time. He was in France and he wanted to meet with us. And he said something that I always remember. He said, when I want a piece of my designer, I show them Lydia. And that was the greatest compliment someone could actually do to us, because we looked up at all these companies and product for so long. And yes, I believe um, the other reason why we can say that confidently is it became very early on a verb in France. People Lydia each other money like they Venmo
Right. I was
money
gonna, I
in
was
the
gonna,
US.
I was gonna ask you about that, Cyril, because just like people in the US say, "I'll Venmo you," I understand that in France people say, Je te fais un Lydia." But I mean,
Absolutely.
how is there any way that you can kind of replicate that, I guess, virality, that kind of loyalty that you have with the Lydia app, with your kind of import it, if you almost, into your Sumeria kind of banking app? Is there any way to get that kind of stickiness with the banking app?
Yeah, I believe there are two different worlds, but and there are different expectations as well, because they're very different services in nature. But the trust relationship that some clients built with the company, and we know it's a business of trust by essence. So that trust in one product, that reliability over time, we've been around for more than 13 years now. I mean, of course it helps. But we also have big development plan for Lydia in 2026. Lydia is going to be open to the entire Eurozone, um, and we're going to make it a perfectly open hub for anyone in that zone to be able to send money um, to another person in that Eurozone, regardless of the funding source or the destination. It could be an account, so it could be account to account, it could be card to account, it could be account to card, whatever.
And given those expansion plans, can you tell me kind of where Lydia Solutions stands today in terms of users and kind of revenue mix and
Yeah,
profitability, and where you
it,
expect it to be by the end of 2026?
yeah. In well, 2020, the number of users is pretty big. We have like 8 million people that have used the Lydia service in 2025. About 1 out of 2 person in France aged between 18 and 30 years old have a Lydia account. So it's 50% market share in that age group. It's really very big. On the Sumeria service, we now have 2.2 million users, which also makes it a very significant service of this type in France, especially given the fact that 80% of our user base is, again, in that age group of 18 to 30 years old. In terms of profitability, we're very confident. We're getting very close to it, and we're very confident this year is going to turn the company profitable. Um, yeah.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to seeing how that pans out in 2026. So, look, we've heard about Lydia Solutions now. Let's learn more about Cyril. So, Cyril, pre-Lydia, I think you had, this isn't your first rodeo, you had two, at least previous companies you founded. One was called Vitis and one was called DrinkOn.me. What kind of startup scars do you bear from those experiences? I imagine that they've helped you kind of do the Lydia Solutions, set Lydia Solutions up and grow that business, perhaps, without as many scars, perhaps.
Um, I would say that the most scars are got from Lydia. Drink on Me, to be honest, is just the lab for Lydia, and it's the same company. We just changed the name afterwards. So it's really where we tried in bars to start that mobile payment thing. The reason why I'm saying the most cars come from Lydia is really because um, with Lydia, I started in an environment that I knew nothing about. It was B2C. I never did that before. It was banking, it was payment, all this stuff I didn't know at all. And I started with another co-founder, Antoine Port, who, of course, a more technical profile, but who was 24 years old at the time. So it was like pretty much fresh out of university, had 1 year as professional, and therefore it was completely crazy. I mean, we had to learn by doing, uh, with a lot of roadblocks and complexities and constraints, because it's not an easy business to get in. And I have to say, it makes the fact that we turn mobile payment a reality for the French people even more glorious, maybe. I mean, it's a bit of an arrogant word. I'm not, but that's the best what I can think about, because it's really like, how come that it's these two guys that knew nothing and that honestly had to battle for so much with no resources, no company, no brand, no customer base, that make the French people using their mobile to pay.
And not only that, of course, when you founded the company, you went through you rode up towards the boom times, during the pandemic and perhaps just after, and then have also experienced the kind of not necessarily bust, but certainly tougher environment for fintechs since then. What have you learned from the boom and the bust, if you like, about resilience and decision making?
Well, we were lucky. People would call that lack of luck, but I would say we were extremely lucky to start in a time and in a place where there was not a ton of money available for pre-seed or seed companies. Um, Fintech, B2C, no business plan, 2011, 2012 in France. Trust me, you were very far from any VC money. So we had to start with nothing. We had to build the product with nothing. We had to go through the regulatory things with no money. We had to do everything by ourselves. And that gave us a DNA that is extremely frugal, that also put us in this mindset where seizing opportunities is not a nice to have, but is a essential um, piece of what you should do as a CEO, for example. Whether it's a market opportunity, a regulatory opportunity, a financing opportunity, any opportunities, I mean, you paid for that. And that's really, I mean, because we start in these times, we had to adopt this mindset from day one. And of course, it helped when pandemic hit, and all of a sudden, all your business just disappear. It helps when funding is not as easy as it used to be in the 2019, 2022 period. It helps every time the environment gets tougher. And we had a lot of these cycles already over the last 14 years.
Okay, great. So look, Cyril, a key part of this interview is to get your take on the future of finance. But first, we're going to take a very quick break, after which we're going to continue our conversation with the co-founder and CEO of Lydia Solutions, Cyril Chiche. Welcome back, and don't forget, if you're not already a full member of our community, everything you need to join can be found at www.parisfintechforum.com. Okay, so now, Cyril, let's talk about the future of finance. So, look, from tariffs to geopolitics to taxes, we live in an uncertain world right now. From your perspective, what's the single biggest risk facing consumer fintechs today?
The risk is also the opportunity. It's really the Gen AI technology that is basically going to dramatically change not only fintech, but honestly, most of the services and especially in the B2C world. Um, you have to understand these services that were built for direct communication with their clients. And it's especially true in banking, you know. But if you think about how many people already start using stuff like ChatGPT or equivalent solution to say, okay, you know what, book my holidays. No, you have a very different situation as a um, company that provide a bit of these holidays or maybe the entire package. You will have to answer and to um, please, I would say, or to attract, I would say, that technical technological agent. It's very cold. There's no cognitive biases you can use. I mean, all this stuff that all these companies been built on, they will be gone, and they will be gone for real and soon, a lot sooner and a lot faster and a lot in a lot more aggressive way that we expect, and therefore. That will be transformative because everything that has been built for company, service company, fintech in this case, but to talk to humans.
And it's not just AI, of course. I mean, in the fintech space, especially in the payment space, there's certainly, been a lot of disruption going on, perhaps more to come, especially when you see things like stable coins or central bank digital currencies. I mean, are these for you the kind of biggest disruptors on the horizon?
Well, to me, these are rails, and rails are just options to perform an action. And if you can find faster, cheaper, more reliable rails, so be it. But I don't think they that massive disruptor because you will keep on doing the same thing between the same people, just using different rails.
Okay.
They're very interesting avenue to explore, and we will certainly use this technology and explore them and to see how much we can leverage them. But they're not like that massive disruptor when you think from a consumer perspective.
And of course, when new technologies like artificial intelligence, and you've just talked a little bit about the kind of massive changes that are that we're on the cusp of, thanks to generative artificial intelligence. We've also another one that many people talk about these days is, of course, quantum computing, which has a specific, I suppose, concern for fintechs in the sense of fraud. And a lot of the kind of, cryptographic technology that protects our data and our finances could be rendered obsolete by quantum computing. Is that something that you're fearful of? Is that another thing that maybe is a little bit overhyped and we shouldn't really be getting our knickers in a twist over right now?
I mean, that would definitely be crazy not to be extremely um, careful about what's happening in that domain because, of course, I mean, again, it's we're in the business of trust, and if something can be built and that will basically ruin all these big systems that have been put together to protect people money. I mean, if we look back to what the bank role is to people, it takes you back to these Western movies where basically a bank is a big safe box within a small house and a guy with a gun in front of it. And that's basically the earliest image of what a basic bank service is protecting people funds. So if indeed this collapses, then the entire industry goes away because then the trust is not here anymore. Then people will keep the money under the mattress like they would do in the old days. So that's definitely a massive threat. It's something that should be considered, and definitely an area where we should invest um, significantly to make sure that we're building new systems to based on these technology to protect again the new threat created by this technology.
I mean, you already talked a little bit about how little time you have outside of Lydia and what time you do have outside of Lydia you like to spend with your family. But I think you also sit on the board of France Fintech, where you've been pushing for kind of better regulation. I don't want to get into politics here, but how have actions taken by the Trump administration rippled through into EU fintech policy, and has it been for the better or for the worse?
Well, honestly, I would have loved to tell you that the EU policy um, cascades down that fast, or but Trump's been in the office for his second term only 1 year, and there's no policy change in 1 year at EU level. It takes 3, 4, 5 years. So at the moment, there's zero impact.
What impact would you expect? I mean, we saw, for example, the Genius Act kind of, giving more a regulatory framework for cryptocurrencies and stable coins and the like. And then we've seen, kind of USD, for example, stable coins stealing a march on euro denominated stable coins or any others for that matter. So do you think that the EU kind of needs to get its act together to make sure that it doesn't fall behind?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you've heard the word sovereignty in many people's mouth, but most of the time it's more a marketing concept than actual acts, or at least it has been in the past. And an easy way to make sure that's the case is look at how much dependency there is from Europe towards the US, technology being tech or even financial tech. And depending on what's happening in the US politics, that is either an advantage or a big danger. And so, as one of the largest um, economic zone and population zone, Europe and EU um, cannot be in dependency. It has to act a lot more swiftly and strongly towards sovereignty.
Okay, well, we'll see how that pans out. But it is now, Cyril, time for our round of rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
I am.
All right, so I've got 90 seconds on my countdown clock on my phone. I just want one-word answers from you. Okay, one-word answers. We'll get through as many as we can. When the alarm goes off, I'll let you finish answering that question, and then we will stop. So away we go. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. All right, what fintech segment, in your view, has the biggest potential over the next 5 years?
I'd say online banking.
What is the biggest pain point in your everyday financial life that you would like to see resolved?
It's not in my financial life, but in people's financial life, overdraft.
Okay. Are bank bosses ready for the AI revolution?
No.
Are customers ready?
Yes.
Do you think that regulators, I think we know the answer to this, have kept pace in the EU and US, have kept pace with all the new possibilities and behaviors we're seeing in the financial industry?
Never.
Have you personally ever invested in crypto?
Yes.
Are physical points of sales part of the future of finance?
Marginally.
Are bank branches part of the future of finance?
Ultra marginally.
Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 the most likely, 1 the least likely, how likely is it that in the next 10 years, one of the neobanks will be as profitable as a top-tier legacy bank, between 1 and 10?
10.
CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, will become a mainstream reality in the US and the EU?
In the EU, 7.
That you'll be able to open a crypto account at a top-tier bank?
9.
That SWIFT will still be the main tool for transferring money around the world?
2.
Oh, well, not looking good for SWIFT from your perspective. All right, well, look, I'm afraid we're out of time, as you heard, for our round of rapid-fire questions and for our conversation. So I just want to thank you, Cyril Chiche, co-founder and CEO of Lydia Solutions, for joining me today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And for everyone watching, we will be back again next time with another big name from the world of finance and technology. We do hope you'll be able to join us again then. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to the Paris Fintech Forum YouTube channel and to follow us on X at Paris Fin Forum. That's all for now. See you next time. Bye-bye.